Hey, what's going on, everybody? Back again for another vidya. It is I, your boy, who I realized I have not actually said my name or anything yet. So I guess for this video, I will say I am J. Cole Stand. Anyways, so back again for another one. Like I said before in the last video, we are going to be going over the conspiracy theory iceberg tier 3, which means we're going to be talking about three topics. So, other than that, I mean, let's just kind of jump into it. Let's go. First one's going to be Plane of Jars. I think it's a lot more. The more I looked into this one, the more weirder it got, and it's very hard to believe that this is probably the most realistic out of the three I'm going to cover. And to me personally, it was the creepiest out of the three I'm going to cover. Sprinkled through the valleys and plains of the Zhangquang Plateau, hope I said that right, in Laos, there are these jars made out of various different types of rocks, and they're just sprinkled throughout this entire place, which is very strange. One, when I say a lot, like it's like thousands of them. Like, I can't make that up. It's thousands of them sprinkled throughout here, and nobody really knows of their origins or how they got there or who put them there. A French researcher by the name of Madeleine Colani concluded that all of this whole area had to be some type of burial practice, and that's what the jars were purposed for. And a few researchers, or archaeologists, I believe, actually kind of backed up the claims, because whenever they did some digging around the area, they were able to find other type of ceramics, burial goods, and even human remains around the site. To this day, it is considered to be one of the most prolific and important archaeological pieces in the Southeastern Asian hemisphere, or area, not hemisphere, that's not the word. And now that we got the overview out of the way, let us get into some of the quick facts so I can really kind of reel you in as to why this is weird, because I'm not just talking about some like mason jars in a field, not thousands of those. No. The shortest out of all of the jars is about 4 feet tall. That's the baby one, okay? The largest, biggest jar is about 7.5 to 8-ish feet tall. I saw some reports that were saying 10 feet tall, but like, I didn't see any jars that were actually 10 feet tall. And you can find measurements of some of them online, and you can find where people have actually like measured them and weighed them, and boy, the weight. Okay. On average, the smallest jar weighs about 4,000 pounds. I'll say that again. On average, because there's thousands of them, the smallest one they found weighs 4,000 pounds, okay? Follow me. The biggest one they found, which is the one that was about 7-ish, 8-ish feet tall, weighed 21,000 pounds. Like, you know, I really haven't dealt with too much stuff that weighs tons, but I just want to put this into perspective for you, how big these jars were. And secondly, I want to add on that these jars are what I said earlier. They're basically prehistoric. Whenever they dated these jars, they found out that they had to have been created somewhere between about 1260 BC to about, I think, 660 BC. So strangely enough, that was right around the time that the Iron Age actually began. So listen, check this out. Sorry, I'm gonna look at my phone for this to make sure I get it right, but I really want to hammer in how heavy these jars were for people in the prehistoric time to be just, you know what, I'll get to that in a second. But just think about this, okay? The smallest jar, right, is 4,000 pounds. Listen, a 2022 Ford F-150 weighs about 4,021 pounds, upwards to about 5,014 pounds, okay? Just one of them, all right? Now, What makes this even funnier to me is the towing capacity for a 2022 Ford F-150 is 11,300 pounds, okay? So, you know, a Ford truck could lift like maybe, I don't know what, 2 in like a broken one. Like how big was it? Like, bro, I don't know. I just find it freakier that like I've really never even heard anybody talk about it. Like it almost sounds made up, but this is a thing. Like you can go to Laos and you can actually find this field. I mean, there's plenty of videos of people and pictures on YouTube and everywhere of people going to this field of these gigantic jars. And what makes it more weird is that there's actually a few lids. Most of the jars don't have lids at all. But there's like a few lids that are kind of scattered throughout the site, and on the lids, some of them have symbols, and they range anywhere between like random geometrical like patterns to like symbols of humans on top of the lids. So it's, I mean, your guess is as good as, I don't know what they were putting in these jars. Whenever they found all of them, they were of course pretty much empty. But yeah, gigantic jars that are, you know, like basically the weight of a 2022 Ford F-150. I sound like I'm advertising at this point. I'm not advertising, but I just had to use something as a reference to like drive home the point that at the smallest level, you just have a field full of F-150s that are just sprinkled throughout this field, but in the form of jars. So earlier I kind of alluded to something, but I wanted to save it for right now. And that's basically that these jars were placed there. As in, whenever the archaeological people did whatever, I don't know, archaeological space magic voodoo to date this and figure out whatever they do with lasers and stuff, I don't know. But whenever they did all of that stuff, they determined that these jars, where they found them, was not the original spot of the jars. They actually traced it and realized that these jars had been moved from a location, get this, over about 5 miles away. So not only were these gigantic 2022 Ford F-150 weighted jars made somewhere else, but somehow they moved thousands of them to another location 5 miles away. Because of how many jars that are around in this particular area, they've actually decided to basically kind of divide them up into sites, right? So there's roughly about 90 sites, and within each site ranges a number of jars, anywhere between the number 1 all the way to the number 400 for each different site, which is a lot. So the jars were made out of about 5 different types of materials. You have sandstone, you have limestone, granite, and I can't remember the other 2. One of them looked, I didn't even know that was like a stone or something. I think it was like conglomerate, something like that. And I forgot the last one was like maybe breccia or ferracia. I mean, you can go look it up. It's there. I didn't write it down because it didn't sound common. So. But also another very important thing is still to this day, they can't really tell how the jars were made. So there's a few different methods that they think that they could have made them with. They either think that maybe since it was during the Iron Age, maybe someone actually chiseled them. But that would mean that that was a lot of stone. So there's like another method where they think that maybe they took like, I don't even know how, but they kind of just like molded them. I don't know if that's possible either. I don't really know a lot about making gigantic jars, so I don't know whoever those people made it. They did it. That's all I know. That's all archaeologists know. So believe it or not, it's going to get a lot more weird than that. And with everything that I just said before, that's just literally the quick facts, and it's already very strange of a story, right? So it gets a little bit more weird, and this is going to involve war and a few other aspects, tales and legends as well, as to why this would probably land on a conspiracy theory iceberg list. So let's get into that, the background and the urban legends in the area. Between 1959 and 1975, there was the Laotian War. And this war was between two parties, of course. That's kind of how it works most of the time, with a little bit of outside interference. And there was a few major battles in it, meaning a lot of explosions and shooting and whatnot, and, you know, other things other than just political nonsense. And during that, the Plain of Jars field was a part of that action. So another name that the Laotian War goes by is the Secret War. And that's what we in the United States call it, because we were also aiding in that war, but we didn't want them to know that we were, because we weren't supposed to be, because of some kind of treaty or something, or we just weren't supposed to be there. So we were sending troops in kind of like under the radar. And under the radar. Listen to this BS. So during this time, I believe the years of 1963 upwards to 1975, which is basically the end of the war, right? We dropped so many bombs and ammunitions. So during that time period, the United States dropped about 3 million tons of ordnances, or basically bombs, explosives, over different Laotian sites around that area, and of course including the Plain of Jars. 3 million tons? Do you know how many 2022 Ford F-150? Okay, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not gonna do that anymore. But seriously, on a serious note, we dropped so many ordinances, so many bombs, and I think they said even landmines sprinkled in over the area and the region, that to this day, there's actually a lot of the area that is just off limits. You can't go there, literally for your safety, because there are literal bombs sprinkled throughout that field that will, you know, unalive you. So there is a local Laotian legend that states that the jars belonged to a king from way back then, who was actually the king of a race of, dare I say it, giants. Which, as crazy as that sounds, like it would make sense. Like, I can't stress how huge these jars are. I mean, you're looking at the biggest one is 7.5 to 8 feet tall, and it was somehow transported about 5 miles from its original location, which, boy, I never would have thought I'd literally be giving credibility to the theory of giants. I gotta question my life a little bit more, man. But yes, the legend basically says that they believe that maybe that there was a guy. They even had a name for him. It was like Kun Xiong or something like that. I'm probably terrible with pronunciation, but hey, I'm trying here. But yeah, they state that they belong to him, and the jars were actually used for alcohol. So apparently there was some kind of great battle back then. And they never said who he was battling, which is even more weird. But there was some kind of battle that him and his giant people were fighting. So they created these gigantic jars and filled them up with a whole bunch of alcohol and just got jacked up for however long, I guess, giant warriors get tore up from on celebrating. So that's kind of the Laotian urban legend about the jars. But with the combination of course, the urban Laotian legends, and with the fact that we, the United States, dropped 3 million tons of ordinances on the area, people kind of started suspecting that, you know, maybe this was a cover-up. Maybe that's why the United States actually wanted to participate, when, of course, they had no business and they shouldn't have been there, because they literally broke like treaties to go over there and fight this war anyways. And what for? Like, what did we really get out of it compared to all of the damage and all of the resources that we put into just bombing the mess out of this area for no reason? Or not a reason for us anyways. So that's basically the Plain of Jars. That's kind of how that went down. On to the next one. Hitler escaped to Inner Earth, aka Agartha, or Hollow Earth. So yeah, that's a crazy one, right? Good grief. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. To make this particular theory have legs. It literally has to combine like other theories on this same list. So I'll be talking a little bit about Hitler escaping to Agartha or Inner Earth, and I'll be talking about Admiral Byrd, and I'll also be talking about Operation High Jump, and of course the continent of Antarctica. So most of us are familiar with the story of how Nazi Germany ended, right? Something along the lines of Hitler was basically getting closed in upon, and he took like a cyanide pill right before they found him, and when they did find him, that was it. Well, Hitler is like Tupac, but for like tyrants. It's weird because what a comparison. But all of these different stories and theories about how he didn't die in Nazi Germany, like there's some that say that Hitler actually somehow ended up in South America, and if you go to South America, you will see a lot of weird remnants of Nazis, and part of that may be a little bit true. I don't know if Hitler himself went there, but we do know that Operation Paperclip was 100% legit, and a lot of the brilliant, scientific, hateful Nazi minds were actually spared, and they were absorbed into other scientific functions in other governments. So that is legit. Hitler himself wasn't a scientist, so I don't really see a good reason why they would ever, spare him or keep him around. I mean, you can just start this over again. But the theory states, in this one in particular, that Hitler did not go to South America and he did not take a cyanide pill. Instead, he went to the continent of Antarctica, where he met these entities or whatever, or people, and they somehow open arms brought him in and was like, hey, come to Inner Earth. It's cool in here. And Hitler now lives inside of the planet. So let's break this down, because just saying that out loud is crazy. So let's get into this step by step, okay? So yes, it is 100% factual that Hitler did have an interest in Antarctica, and he did send boats and he did have funding to go to Antarctica. Now, this was in the very, very, very beginning, before a lot of things really popped off in Nazi Germany. This was around 1936, and the reason why, spoiler alert, I will actually cover some of these steps in the next video. But whenever you want to do an actual genocide, believe it or not, there's actually a build-up to it. And one of the things you have to do is you have to prepare yourself for a genocide. So for example, whenever you do a genocide, you have to kind of put in your head, okay, whenever we do this, people are probably not going to like it. So we have to stock up in certain things before people realize what we're doing. So whenever the rest of the world tries to cut us off from supplies, we will be stocked up on everything that we need, and we can continue operations as normal. That is what Hitler went to Antarctica for, or at least had his people go to Antarctica for. So in 1936, one of the main things that they really enjoyed and what they were really thinking about was, how can we stock up on fats? Fats for things such as cheese, butter, and one of the main huge things that, I don't know why, but apparently they loved during that time period was margarine. During that particular time, they figured that you could make margarine out of whale oil. And also during that time, they were getting a lot of their whale oil, again, like I said, as a trade through Norway. Remember, whenever this pops off, Norway is not going to want to do trade with them. So they were like, let's go ahead and figure out ways to get this whale oil before we even have to deal with Norway and go through this whole thing. So that was the trips to Antarctica, and they wanted to set up a base at Antarctica because Germany all the way down to the Norway area was a long hike, so they just needed to set up places where they could make pit stops. Antarctica was the perfect place. So they ended up finding a piece of land in Antarctica that was, at the time, unclaimed, and it was between two nations. And that is where they tried to set up, I don't think they gave it an official name. I'm just going to say Nazi land, whatever. On one of their trips flying over Antarctica, going to and fro, just kind of mapping the area out, one of the planes realized that they were low on fuel. So whenever you're in a plane and you're low on fuel, one of the best things that you can do to make sure you don't die or crash is to start lightening the load of the plane. So they threw out like these boxes. I don't know why it's kind of funny to me. They threw out these boxes of pins. There was basically just these tiny little swastika pins or just metals, and they just kind of just threw the box out in Antarctica. And to this day, that box has not been retrieved. So if you want to take an expedition down there to get some rare stuff that you could probably get finessed by the Smithsonian on, I'd say go down there and search for that box of Nazi pins or whatever, swastika pins. It's down there. Just a little fun fact. I just wanted to throw that in there. So let's fast forward a little bit, and now we're going to talk a little bit about my boy, Richard E. Byrd. Admiral Richard E. Byrd to you. Admiral Byrd is a highly decorated naval officer who earned multiple different rewards throughout his career. And just so you know, the Medal of Honor is the highest level of valor that you can gain within basically the United States military. So he was putting in work is what I'm trying to say. He was a credible guy. He was on top of everything. They trusted him with a lot of missions, and they were like, hey, this sounds like a crazy job. Get Byrd on the phone. And Byrd would do his thing. Amongst his many accolades and accomplishments, he is also known for finding Mount Sidley, which is the biggest volcano in Antarctica. 1 year after World War II ended, he was given the job to go to the continent of Antarctica for a mission or expedition titled Operation High Jump. The goal was to establish a base there called Little America 4, I believe. I think it was Little America 4, something like that. And it was going to last about 6 to 8 months. And listen to this, because they sent quite a few people here. And this is also why you find Operation High Jump also as a separate entry on the conspiracy theory iceberg. And remember what I said, this is 1 year after everything kind of came to an end with World War II. So they sent about 4,700 soldiers, 13 ships, and 33 aircrafts. And because of this, a lot of people were like, that's quite a lot of people to be sending just for, scientific research and setting up a base. What were you really doing over there? That's a lot of people, man. 4,000 people, almost 5,000 technically. What y'all doing? But during the entire operation of those months, they only inflicted about, I'd say, maybe 10 casualties, maybe less. And of course, a few people getting injured from time to time. But most of the casualties, or should I say just fatalities, they really occurred from just people dying from shipwreck. I think they said one of the ships like wrecked into something, maybe ice, and people kind of just died from that. So I don't know if they like fell off or what, but most of it came from incidents. So it wasn't, or at least it's not recorded to be any actual like casualties of war or battle or anything along that nature. So we really just kind of got incidents at this point. Now, this is where the theory gets more peculiar, right? It's been on and off mundane for the most part, but this is where it starts to ramp up. So, Admiral Byrd also kept a diary, and he would just log in it, basically what was going on day by day and just different type of events and occurrences. And it started getting strange in the diary because he started talking about how he found new land. And at first people were like, yeah, Antarctica, we haven't really been there. Yeah, new land. But then it started getting weirder and weirder and weirder. He started making diary entries about how he encountered an entity or a being that only went by the name The Master. And the Master was a leader that was over a city inside Earth. Hey, his words, not mine, okay? So from time to time, Admiral Byrd would have conversations back and forths with this person or entity or whatever. And whoever this person or whoever the master was, would basically say that he has a deep concern for the, I guess, surface world. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking about Futurama, but he had a deep concern for the surface world and what we are doing out here. And I'm just going to read some of what it says. I don't want to jack that up, okay? So I'm going to read it. So listen to this, because this is according to Admiral Byrd, what the master told him. So check this out. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was that alarming time we sent our flying machines, the Flugelrods, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity, but now we must. For you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for your man, mainly that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the power of your world, and yet they do not heed. So, according to this, apparently the government had already known about Inner Earth before Admiral Byrd even spoke to the master. So that kind of, according to this, I don't know how much I believe in it, but according to this, yeah, that kind of freaked him out, because I mean the government, basically already knew, and I know he's probably like, bro, y'all gonna send me down here and it's like, freaky giants and whatever is down there, lions, tigers, bears, oh my, I don't know. But it's like, bro, you're gonna send me down here and you knew this stuff existed? Like that's crazy. Why are you doing me like this? You're trying to get me clapped? But yeah, so that's one entry from his diary. I'm gonna read you another one where he was actually talking to the United States government, supposedly. March 11th, 1947. I have just attended a staff meeting at the Pentagon. I have stated fully my discovery and the message from the master. All is duly recorded. The president has been advised. I am now detained for several hours, 6 hours, 39 minutes to be exact. I am interviewed intently by top security forces and a medical team. It was an ordeal. I am placed under strict control via the national security provisions of this United States of America. I am, and this part's in all caps, ordered to remain silent in regard to all that I have learned on the behalf of humanity. Stop, all caps. Incredible. I am reminded that I am a military man and I must obey orders. Some heavy stuff right there, eh? So, yeah, I mean, look, as cool as all this sounds, man, I gotta see the diary. You know what I mean? I gotta see the diary. Get those same archaeologists who did the plane of jars and dated that, and let them know, like, yeah, this paper tastes like 1947. This gotta. So now that I've said everything, laid it all out on the table, let's bring it all in. Okay, so Hitler escaped to Inner Earth, right? That's the initial thing. We have Admiral Byrd here with the United States government on behalf of the Navy. And we have Operation High Jump, where I said there are almost 5,000 soldiers, multiple types of ships, and airplanes, right? So the theory states that whenever Hitler left Nazi Germany, he came down to Antarctica, right? For some reason, whoever is inside the planet, whoever the master and his people are, linked up with the Nazis. And whenever they linked up with the Nazis, we were going down there and we were actually having a war with these people. And we were fighting Nazis that were inside UFOs. And that's where all this links up together in a very weird fashion. So, I don't know what else you want me to say on that. That's kind of it. Hitler went to Antarctica with his Nazi gang and gang, and the United States tried to fight them, and they had UFOs, and they shot down some UFOs, and the master kind of don't like us, whoever that is. Yeah. So moving on to the next one, and I believe this is actually the first of many in the future thought experiments that we will be going on this particular subject, this iceberg. I really gravitate towards the thought experiments, and I've stated this before, that the criteria I pick these on, they're ones that I either think have some credibility, or I think they're interesting, or I think they're hilarious. And for this one, I really like it because it's just a thought experiment, and it's just a theory per se, almost a scientific philosophy. But basically what quantum immortality, quantum suicide is if the quantum realm, I guess, exists in a level to where there is a multiverse, then this states that if there is a multiverse and it's just based off of infinite realities and infinite possibilities, then on each side of that, that means that there is an infinite number of ways that you die, and an infinite number of times that for somehow, some way, you just keep on living in some form or fashion. Now, first of all, let's just think about this really quickly, because some of you automatically thought, immortality, yes, I want to live forever. And a lot of you thought, no, I do not want to live forever. And the same can go for probably quantum suicide. There's many of you out there that don't want to envision yourself dying an infinite number of ways, and vice versa, whatnot. So let's kind of break this down. One, when it comes to immortality, it could be one, against your will. Two, it could be in a way to where you can't even really perceive the grand scheme of the immortalness that you are in. So this is where it gets even more freakier, because it states that if this is all true, then it does also mean that there is some kind of way, with the way that the quantum fabric works, that all of us are still somehow connected in some way, some form, some fashion to these other endless copies of us. This also opens the door and the hypothesis that potentially certain things that we perceive, such as deja vu, could literally be something that did happen to you. Whether it's in a timeline to where, who knows, maybe it's a certain time in the future and you're looking at a universe where everything is the exact same, but just 10 minutes ahead. And that's where deja vu comes from. It's just these weird thoughts of you having or experiencing this are bleeding through from one timeline to the other. Crazy. And that's a very cool way to think of deja vu. However, scientists have debunked it, and they've said that deja vu is literally just one of your eyes perceiving information faster than your brain can calculate it, and it thinks that it's seen it before, but it hasn't. Anyways, though, getting back into quantum immortality and suicide, there's two different routes I want to go down this with you. I want to go down the actual experiment itself, and then I want to go down the philosophy. I'm going to do the experiment first, because there's some debunking in it, and then I'm going to get to the philosophical side. So, as stated earlier, it is a thought experiment in quantum mechanics, and it lives in the realm of physics and the philosophy of physics itself. And it was created actually by a person. His name is Max. The best way that I can describe the experiment is if you've ever heard of Schrodinger's cat, which I'll briefly touch on that. But this experiment basically puts you in the driver's seat. You are basically the cat. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. So in Schrodinger's cat, this is a quantum type of experiment that you will hear many times if you look up anything about quantum anything. So there's this state called superposition, right? And basically what Schrodinger's cat is let's say that I have a cat, right? I put this cat inside of a box with something that can kill the cat. Now, the way this experiment is supposed to work is if I push this button, and usually what kills the cat is like, I think radiation or something, like you release radiation in the box, a high amount of it. But the way that the theory works is The cat is neither dead nor alive. It is in this weird state of superposition where it is both dead and alive at the exact same time, and the only way to determine whether or not it is one or the other, or if the experiment failed or succeeded, is if I remove the box. Until I remove the box, I have to assume that the cat is in this weird superposition of being either dead or alive. Either it survived the radiation or it didn't. Don't know it until I open the box. The quantum suicide, quantum immortality experiment is very similar. So the way it works is, let's say that for some reason I have some type of device that can kill me instantly. And when I say instantly, it has to be in a criteria to where I myself will not know that I am dying or that I died. It has to be literally painless and instantaneously, and it happens right there. Not a clue, don't feel anything, don't know anything. Boom, I'm either dead or alive. Now, where this gets freaky is if it's so quick that I don't even know it, what does consciousness itself do? First of all, where does consciousness go? We still actually don't know that regardless. But secondly, will I know if I'm dead, or will I just literally say, oh, looks like nothing happened? And in my consciousness, I just continue to just walk away from the experiment as if I'm still alive, but I'm really dead. So it's a weird superposition, and unfortunately, you will never know if it happened to you, which is freaky, but whoever the witness or the other people are who witnessed the experiment will have that answer on whether or not you died or that you lived. Now, going even further into this, very convoluted, but going even further into this, the experiment has a few set of rules and prerequisites that have to be met for it to be legit. Let's go over that. So rule number 1 is the random number generator that triggers the gun or doesn't trigger it has to be set in a quantum state. It cannot be deterministic. If it is deterministic, you are not doing the experiment properly. It must be quantum, and you must be somehow in a state of superposition for this to qualify. That is rule number 1. Rule number 2 is you must be dead. I'm just reading the rules. You must be dead. And you must be dead within a time period that is shorter than you being able to perceive what is going on in the experiment. So it has to be so quick that it is like faster than, I guess, the quantum level of measurement. Yeah, there we go. And I don't know why they said it for like the 3rd time, but rule number 3 is you gotta die, okay? Like, they really want you to know that. You have to be dead for this to work out, okay? So rule number 3 is, it says without a shadow of a doubt, you must be dead. Not injured. So if you get slammed by something or whatever happens to you, call it off, go to the hospital, get checked out or whatever, and yeah. One thing that I thought was very interesting about this is Max also stated that when it comes to the experiment, like I said earlier, you have to die instantly. If you don't, there's actually measurable consciousness. So they state that in most cases when people die, they actually don't die immediately. There's like a fading of consciousness that happens slowly over time. And if you are experiencing this, then the experiment itself doesn't fully work. I don't really know why that throws it in there. I mean, you know, you just want to see if you're immortal or if you're dead, right? So I don't really know why that plays a part in this, but apparently it does. Also, another very important thing is Max, even himself, as well as some of his colleagues, have criticized it because there's a little bit of difficulty in this, which is to be expected, right? I mean, you're trying to make quantifiable decisions and choices based off of something that is literally limitless and supposedly endless, right? Endless use. How can you actually grasp the full concept of it if you just keep going on and on forever, right, in different timelines. So some of the things that they said would make this experiment difficult is the fact that you couldn't line up all of the versions of yourself to figure out where this quantum immortality or quantum suicide would line up, because there are versions of yourself that just flat out won't do it for whatever reason. I mean, you could go down a different path in life in that universe that never leads you to getting a chance to do this experiment. You could die in childhood and just never get a chance to do it at all in other timelines. And that's the weird sliding scale of this infiniteness. So it's very, 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 very interesting of a subject. So now that we've gotten basically the experiment out of the way, let's go over to the more philosophical standpoint of it and kind of dissect that a little bit. It's not much to say, but let's just kind of jump into it. So, as stated earlier, it's infinite numbers of timelines, right? Now, the funny thing about it is whenever we talk about quantum immortality and quantum suicide, in a sense, this technically means that right now, technically, you are immortal. Which is crazy to think about, because right now, you yourself, when you do this, you don't have to necessarily go into a room and try to play Russian roulette with yourself versus your many other selves. You could just live your life right now, and I mean, if you die, well, you know, you're not going to get the answer, but everybody else around you, they'll get the answer. Like, well, he looks like he wasn't immortal. Or, you know, right now, you're not dead yet, so in a sense, you yourself are in this weird state of superposition. And it's kind of funny because we're actually already working on different and various technologies to try to become immortal now. And there's many different routes and different medical ways that they're doing it. I mean, you know, if you've been paying attention to the news, they're coming up with like topical creams or working on them right now to reverse aging. They're talking about growing just different body parts for yourselves. And they're trying to figure out ways to where you can literally take your consciousness out of your brain and put it into new hosts. So earlier I mentioned that as well. You know, what really is immortality? What would that look like for us? Because, I mean, you know, it could be the Dragon Ball's way, right? Where I'm me, but I just never die and never age and I'm indestructible. Then there's me inside of a computer. Then there's me in the meta. And then there's me that changes body parts like a car or something. So there's all these different versions of immortality, and we don't know what that looks like. So at this particular point, yes, you are currently in a superposition. You could be one of the many versions of yourself that lives on forever. Then again, we could also look at it and say, what necessarily does that mean? Is it our consciousness? Is it possibly this thing that we think is there but haven't found yet called a soul? What necessarily is immortal? And that gets even deeper. So let's say that it is the route of me replacing body parts and whatnot, right? How many different body parts do I replace to where I'm no longer actually who I am? And what makes me me? Is it my brain? Is it my consciousness? Is it my experiences in life? Who knows? But other than that, that's kind of about it for now. I really hope that if we are in quantum suicide / immortality or whatever, I hope you're not one of the ones that keeps having to die over and over and over, because that would suck. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it for now, ladies and gents. Other than that, I hope you're having a fantastic day on this Wednesday. Nothing really special about this Wednesday for anybody, you know. I mean, it's just a normal Wednesday. I don't know why I would choose to make a video like this for a Wednesday. That's weird, right? Anyways, yeah, I hope you guys are having a fantastical day. Like I said, as soon as I get done doing this one, I'm going to immediately start working on another one, trying to have one out for you guys next week. I'm going out of town, so I don't want to fall behind. Hope you're having a fantastic one. Let me know how you feel. And again, thank you for all the new people pulling up. I hope that you will keep pulling up. I hope that I will keep dropping content that you enjoy. I've been looking at the ratios, man. It's a lot of thumbs up. Like, please, more of that. I like that, and I hope you like this. So let me know below. Oh my God, one more thing. So I did say this as well. And I say this like every time I do one of the Iceberg videos. So I'm just going to throw it on the screen right now. Just to give you a refresher of the entire Iceberg. So if you see anything on here that I haven't covered, we're currently on tier 3. So if you see anything in 1, 2, or 3 so far that you think you want to see a deeper dive on, let me know. Like, throw that in the comments. Give me some more material. Give me some more fuel to the fire. Just look at that list, pause it if you have to, and just be like, yo, that looks weird. What is that about? Now, I will go ahead and warn you in advance that some of these topics on here are extremely obscure. So I'll still try to do the videos, but I'm just letting you know that video might be 2 minutes long. Some of this stuff is like very hard to come by, and at best you may find like, I don't know, a Reddit post about it or like 2 entries on a forum somewhere. So I'll do my best, but yeah, that's the entire list. So yeah, if you see anything on there that kind of caught your eye, let me know. Other than that, hope you guys have a fantastical Wednesday, a fantastical week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.